So Donald Trump and his administration are in full panic mode right now as the government is still shut down and his policies keep getting exposed as being total failures. So what does he do? He goes on the revenge tour, and these are the headlines right now. Justice Department indicts New York Attorney General Letitia James, and she becomes the latest of Trump foes to be charged in a case that career prosecutors had turned down. And if you've been following these stories, you'll know this, that Trump gets really, really angry. He starts tweeting out on social media like he always does. And again, when his policies get exposed, he's like, oh, it's the journalist's fault for exposing how bad I am. Or when basically he's a felon, his crimes get exposed. Oh, well, it's the prosecutors. They expose me, right? Go after them. And so then what he does, Trump, he takes his case to, say, the Justice Department or, various prosecutors, and experienced people with integrity are just like, you got no case, Trump. And essentially then Trump tries to either push them out or tries to get these people to resign. That's what it ends up being. And this has been a long-running thing in the Trump administration that, again, people with experience, people with integrity don't want to be tying their careers or their lives to Trump. And so the question that is always is like, who's left? Well, Trump then brings in a bunch of inexperienced lackeys to carry out his bidding. And I want to go through the details of stuff because I think it matters quite a lot, as unfortunately, I don't think this is the end of it because, again, Trump's failed policies keep getting exposed. And so this is all that they have left is, I'm just going to try to prosecute as many people as I can. James Comey recently just pleaded not guilty. This is all this week. And while Trump is, busying the court system, the justice system with this kind of stuff, it makes it more easy for him and his billionaire buddies to get away with a bunch of other crimes, which I'll get into. I want to read the details of stuff because it does matter. And you always want to take a look at this stuff as, in entirety and see what is going on. So you'll notice a pattern here. It says, the Justice Department won an indictment against New York Attorney General Letitia James Thursday, accusing her of committing mortgage fraud, is what they're going to go for, when she purchased a property in Virginia in 2023. It's pretty similar to the kind of thing they're going after with Lisa Cook. And I guess maybe it's going to try to go after every one of his political opponents with mortgage fraud, which is kind of crazy because that's essentially the stuff that Trump was up to. So I guess that's the plan, is whatever, Trump is guilty of doing, just go after everyone else. And, I wouldn't shock me at this point if like Trump started going after everyone and saying, oh, you know Epstein and you know Epstein. And you never know with these things. This says here, the indictment on bank fraud makes James the second of President Donald Trump's political foes to be charged in the Eastern District of Virginia, because it depends where you charge these things, right? Since Trump pushed out the top prosecutor there and appointed a close ally, Lindsay Halligan. So essentially you're finding a court, or I guess better to say a prosecutor's office that is more, susceptible to the things that you want to do, more willing to go with what you want to do. And again, career people or experienced people with integrity don't want to be a part of this stuff. You guys can see what's going on, right? And the person that he's got, this is what it says, Lindsay Halligan, the person who's working with Trump, who had no previous experience as a prosecutor, right? So you push out someone who's experienced, that doesn't want to do anything with Trump, knows that Trump's, whole thing is bogus. Trump brings in someone else with no experience. Halligan won an indictment 2 weeks ago against former FBI Director James Comey on charges of making false statements to Congress. He has pleaded not guilty. And when they say win indictment, just being able to bring the charges here. Halligan presented the case against James to a grand jury in Alexandria. This is all today, just a few minutes ago, I heard about this. It is unusual for a top politically appointed U.S. attorney to present a case herself, and could suggest that the office struggled to find a career attorney willing to take on the assignment. And it's been like this a lot. And this is something that, you see reported, and I know there's just so much news every day. I just want to, pull back and really talk about this stuff. Like you'll hear of various offices, be it DC or New York, in this case, Virginia, of, career prosecutors are like, basically they're out, right? And you always wonder who's left. How does anything even function anymore? And that's the issue. Things don't function. And so like, for example, you'll see it on the ground when ICE is just carrying out, in my opinion, illegal stuff like, nonstop, just kidnapping people, whatever. And it's like, where's anyone to stop them? And I'm saying, I think so many people have resigned or out at the Justice Department, or people are out at the FBI. They keep pushing out people, right? You start to see it. And another example would be, because we've been talking about in the community, is, where people say in the National Guard who are standing up and saying, hey, I'm not following illegal orders. I'm not going to go, after my fellow citizens, like these kind of things. I think it's because Trump keeps pushing out good people, and good people don't want to be associated with these things. And the question is, when is there going to be the tipping point where enough Americans stand up and just like, dude, this is totally wrong. And I want to make this really clear also, guys. I've been hearing a lot of people, and I'll say in our community, say, hey, I've been a Republican for, X amount of years, 10 years, 20 years, etc. But Trump is not a Republican. And I always want to talk about this stuff in honest ways, this stuff, guys. For me, this stuff isn't about left, right at all, right? We're so far out of bounds. It's like, do we want to live under Trump's dictatorship or not, right? Should we live in a world where Trump's like, hey, I just gonna make up whatever against people, and I'm gonna take inexperienced people to carry out my plans? Like, this isn't about left, right. This is about, like, isn't it pretty obvious what's going on here with Trump's trying to take over with a bunch of incompetent people? I just don't think this is sustainable. And this is an interesting thing that we talked about in the last video, to where it's up to the courts now, I guess. And I always encourage people to pay attention to this stuff. And this is what's hard right now, is because the economy is in tough shape. I think it's way worse than anyone knows, because you'll see various reports of it. But the average American's is really, really worried about putting food on the table, right? Because, obviously that is of grave importance. They're worried about paying for healthcare costs. So Trump is able to keep those people under pressure in those ways, right? So the average American can't necessarily follow these stories all the time. And so then it becomes really, really frustrating, because you got to convince them, hey, guys, that this stuff matters. And then, I want their lives to be better. I want the average person's lives to be better. I want your life to be better. And when Trump ties up the government going after like these kind of things, like we're wasting money on sending the National Guard from here to there to there. We're destroying boats, and we're not working on improving the country. If you guys see what I'm saying, it's really frustrating. And it's, like I said, it's obvious when you're pushing out career people. And again, this isn't about left, right. It's like, I want someone with experience, competency, education, etc. I don't want a bunch of literally professional wrestlers running our education system. And I mean, literally, like with the McMahon stuff. I know, isn't it crazy that we're even talking about this? But here's where we're at. It says here, a senior career attorney in the office had indicated to her staff in recent days that she believed the case was weak. Wow. I'll read again. A senior career attorney in the office had indicated to her staff in recent days that she believed the case was weak and did not want to present it to the grand jury, right? Because no one wants to take this there. And I, if you're a lawyer too, prosecutor, whatever, well aware of ethics, well aware how the law works, and do not carry out these kind of actions, right? That's why people step down, don't want to be a part of it. And then Trump can only get the inexperienced sort of, it's hard to say. It's not necessarily just always inexperienced. It's more like the people who have no ethics. It's a better way to put it. And just like essentially blinded by greed. And I guess that's the easiest way to describe Trump administration, is just surrounds itself with a bunch of people who are self-serving, blinded by greed. And this doesn't end well. I think you guys know this. And did not want to present to the grand jury, according to people familiar with the internal conversations, who spoke on the condition of anonymity out of fear of retaliation. You keep hearing about that people are afraid to speak out because Trump will just, sick the feds on you. That attorney had also worked to insulate her subordinates from the case too, so that they too would not have to present the case, right? So anyone of integrity knows you don't want to be part of this case. You don't want any of your, people who are working with you, under you, whatever you want to call it, be part of this case. And that's why Trump's like, has his person. He just appointed this Halligan person, present it to try to get the indictment. Federal officials have been investigating whether James, I'm talking about Letitia James here, lied on a loan documents for a house she purchased in Norfolk in 2023. In that paperwork, she said the home would be her primary residence. It's interesting. It's like the same thing that tried to go after Lisa Cook on. Even as she served as Attorney General in New York, James' attorney had described those errors as honest mistakes and said James has presented evidence showing that she purchased the home for a niece and had not intended to improperly secure a better mortgage rate by declaring it her primary residence. Prosecutors had called James' niece to appear before a grand jury as part of the investigation, according to people who remember the conversations. Those people said the niece gave testimony that would bolster James' case and that she did not commit fraud. So I just want to go through the full thing because you want to be fair on all of this stuff, but you also want to cover everything. So, for example, while people are getting pushed out in New York, Virginia, whatever, you got the Trump kids running around saying crypto is going to be America's future, right? The reason why you have to bring this stuff up is because what happens is all the YouTube channels have been focused on the Letitia James case. I understand that, which I think you totally should. We should totally talk about that. But do not ignore, right? Do not ignore this other stuff. When people from the FBI are now being moved over to immigration and anything that Trump wants to do, experienced people are basically taking early retirements, etc. Then that means we don't have enough people going after white collar crime, which I always tell you guys, this is the real money. This is the real money here. And I just put it in the most basic terms. Let's say, for example, Trump decides I'm going to go after delivery drivers in Washington, D.C., or I'm really angry at protesters wearing chicken costumes in Portland. And that's seriously what they were talking about on the Trump world. It is that absurd, right? Chicken costumes in Portland. I'm so concerned about that. And so while you're going to spend money on that, which is, I'll just be perfectly frank, pennies, right? Maybe nickels if you want to be generous. Then we're talking about billions of dollars in crypto laundering, any number of things. That's why Trump wants to build his ballroom. And it's crazy because they don't really fully address this stuff on Fox News. They just let Eric Trump talk. And I'm pretty sure the people over there, and they're smart enough to know this stuff is all a scam. But basically what it ends up being is, be it the right-wing media or Trumpers or whatever, there's a couple of different people in these groups. There's the ones who are scamming the idiots, and there's the idiots getting scammed. And that's what it ends up being. And, you know, it's just like, it's all in the financial news, but a lot of people ignore this stuff. And I'm telling you guys, it's the real money, you know? People who can take your retirements, control real estate developing, all these kind of things. And then your life doesn't get better. Your healthcare costs actually go up. Your job opportunities go down, and any number of things and scams, right? Trump brothers backed by Bitcoin mining company surges after NASDAQ listings. Again, while you're occupying prosecutors and things with whatever frivolous stuff that Trump is going after, then people ignore this kind of stuff. This isn't our financial news. Government's weighing crypto reserves, target 75 billion pot. And I understand when I mention this stuff, you know, again, most people ignore it. And to me, it's ridiculous. Like, yeah, I know there's no fancy pictures or anything like that, but you're talking about real money here. And instead of, like, say, doing all of this crypto nonsense, this is 75 billion here, we could actually be funding the Affordable Care Act with this kind of stuff, right? And that's what the government shut down over. The government shut down over fighting over healthcare. And yet I guess we're all pursuing crypto because that's what Trump wants to do. Or this. And I just want to go over the news with you guys because, again, people ignore this stuff, but it matters. First Brand's creditor claims as much as $2.3 billion has simply vanished. And it's so hard to comprehend. I'm just being honest with you guys, like how much billions of dollars is. You know, it's ludicrous. You know, I remember when I was a kid, we talked about, wouldn't it be great to be a millionaire, right? Because that was a lot of money. And when we're talking in the billion range, it's like really a lot of money. It's like, it's more money than anyone really needs, to be perfectly frank, right? And the latest news this week was like, Musk has got 500 billion kind of thing. And then he just was like 2.3 billion disappear. Great. So where is that money? This is the First Brands thing. Also the tricolor thing, which I talked about several times on the channel. The Justice Department is supposedly looking at this stuff because when I think UBS is connected to this, Jeffrey's connected to this, a lot of people are. And then you got this going on because again, I want you to understand the full picture. Trump and his administration, we got the IRS now going home. IRS to furlough nearly half its workforce. What is this? And the government shutdown. And you never know. Trump may be purposely trying to push out certain people so that, you know, people say who investigate laundering or white collar crimes, be it with crypto or real estate or any crap that he wants to do are gone. And so it allows him to do the kind of stuff that he's doing. And I also want to bring this stuff up because people always ask me about it. And I'm literally telling you, Trump fires black officials from an overwhelmingly white administration. And, you know, I just want to bring a couple things with this. Yes, it's totally happening. But I just want to say it happens to a lot of different groups. And this hurts all of us, right? How does it hurt all of us is because at the end of the day, you want to pick competent people to rise to the top. And for Trump, he's just, I'm going to pick, as many loyal people as I can. And if they're not loyal, you're out. And so take a look at this. This is really telling. This shows, and this is just focusing on black and white, but I just said, don't ignore other groups. Don't ignore Asian Americans or Latino Americans or Arab Americans. Like, there's lots of groups involved with this stuff. Don't ignore women. But yes, in this particular situation, they're just using the data of black and white because it is true. Trump basically doesn't hire any black people in his administration. You can see right here, right? You can literally see it. It's in numbers. Biden, Obama, Eden, George W. Bush hires quite a lot more. Looks like the Trump administration it's like 90% white. I mean, you can see it in the graph here. And again, this is all related to getting competent people. Forget about this kind of stuff, right? Scientology is connected to some weird stock exchange thing. Seriously, it's like, what's going on here? I'm sure there's some corruption going on there. And then you got your quarter of your FBI agents working on other things. And so while all that stuff is happening, let me put it in the most basic terms to connect it to people's lives, because I know you guys have to talk to MAGA people. I know how it is, guys. Let's put it in the most simplest terms. Say you work at a job and you're working with Orsted, right? I think this is in New England. 2,000 people are now out of a job because Trump's decided, like, I don't like that industry. I don't want clean energy. I don't want renewable. I only want oil, right? And so that is your basic, most simplest way to understand corruption is you're picking winners and losers, not based on a free market. You're like, I just prefer oil, and I want to, I don't care about air or water quality. And then when people try to report on you, hey, this is the corruption, right? And then he goes after journalists, or people literally try to go after his crimes, and then he goes after the cops. And that's sort of the world that we live in. And I feel like in this day and age, we're battling a thing in the USA where you have to convince MAGA people, like, these things really do matter and really do affect your lives. And that delivery driver in DC that you're so worried about, that's pennies and nickels compared to the billions that you're losing, be it your retirements, education cuts, healthcare cuts, transportation cuts, etc. And even people who say try to go and fly, and right now in USA, it's completely bonkers. I heard there's like some places that don't even have air traffic controllers. And I mean, this is just where we're at. So that's my thoughts on this stuff. I know it's really stressful this time of just going on right now. I really know. And I think that stuff that really bothers me the most about this whole thing is that I'm telling you, 99.9% of us, right? 99.9% of us are all roughly faced with the same problem, just worried about putting food on the table. And the Trump people could care less about that. And I just want decent people who just talk like regular humans. That's all I want. And just be normal. And can we go back to a time when we don't have to talk about Trump every single day and just go about our lives and, remember those times? I think we're going to get there soon. There's no way you can cover this up. And that's why I said Trump's in panic mode. All they got left is prosecute the Justice League, essentially. So I want to hear your thoughts on this. Do appreciate your time. And I'll catch you on the next video.